Promise we have a little bit of lighter fare later in the hour as John Oliver, well, he mocks me for something we do on The Beat. We'll show you his take on all of that. But first, a mystery that is being dealt with in very serious ways by our own government as military officials describe a UFO perhaps disappearing in front of their eyes. That's next. Is there any other intelligent life in the universe? That's a real question. We're living in a moment where that kind of question and the intrigue around more reportings of UFOs is hitting the mainstream. Indeed, I can tell you there's a Pentagon task force that's working on finalizing a report regarding UFO sightings that will go to Congress next month. It is part of years of official government study of what are largely unexplained phenomena. And just last night, a new episode of 60 Minutes reported on this, discussing with pilots and government officials with firsthand experience how this question percolates among people who know a lot about the world and aerospace. One former intelligence officer describing what he saw with his own eyes.
Imagine a technology that can do 600 to 700 G-forces, that can fly at 13,000 miles an hour, that it can evade radar, and that can fly through air and water and possibly space. And, oh, by the way, has no obvious signs of propulsion, no wings, no control surfaces, and yet still can defy the natural effects of Earth's gravity. That's precisely what we're seeing.
The officer is part of the Pentagon team that spent years looking at a phenomenon that's partly just a result of the technological age we live in. There's a lot more videos out there. There's a lot easier ways people can record anything they see, and they've been analyzing specifically an emphasis on videos recorded by pilots.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
Also tonight, NBC News obtaining a newly leaked video of a UFO that was spotted off the coast of San Diego. Now, this is from 2019. Pentagon officials say the video itself is real. For years, talk about UFOs was often basically minimized. I mean, as a matter of learning things, saying something's unidentified or we don't know what we don't know about what's out there is just an approach to information. But saying that UFOs somehow meant that it was likely there was some sort of other intelligent life was considered fringe or just something for science fiction. In 2017, the New York Times revealed the existence, though, of a secret Pentagon UFO team, including the sourcing for some of those same videos about these sightings and encounters. And tonight, we are joined by Helene Cooper, who helped break that story for the New York Times. Thanks for being here.
Nice to see you, Ari.
Nice to have you. When you look at all this, there seems to be a couple things intertwining. More evidence that the government takes this somewhat seriously, which gives it a kind of a patina of legitimacy. More videos and more people talking about it. Does that mean, in your view, there is more evidence of actual UFOs that are tied to some sort of phenomenon, or would you not go that far?
Your question is perfect, actually, because that gets exactly to where we are. There is not more evidence at this point. You and I talked about this back in 2017 when we wrote the first story. Nothing has changed since we wrote that first story. These are the same videos that we wrote about then. A year and a half later, we did a second story with the 2015 videos of the incidents that took place off of the coast of Virginia, the USS aircraft carrier Nimitz. And again, you saw different Navy fighter pilots now who had interactions with things that they did not understand. And I've been waiting ever since doing those stories for the next shoe to drop. What's the next video? What's the next incident? And we're still in this phase. We're recycling the same videos, the same things from that we first wrote about in 2017 and then in 2019. So that's part of why I would urge a little bit of caution with what we're seeing now because there's nothing new. But I am really eager to see what this DNI and Pentagon report that you alluded to earlier, that's supposed to be sent to Congress next month, comes up with. We've talked to people in the intelligence and the Pentagon, the intelligence industry and the intelligence community and the Pentagon, who say one of the things that they are hoping to do is to, at the very least, putting aside, any new incidents or anything like that could be in the report, and I don't know yet if there's anything in there that we haven't seen or that's eye-opening that we don't know anything about. But what they really hope to do is to remove the stigma for Navy pilots and Air Force pilots who have reported these incidents, to get to the point where we can talk about this in a way that people aren't immediately made to feel stupid.
I love that you put it so clearly that way, and we did want to check back with you given your earlier reporting, and something like this that might be, call it a potentially low probability but very high impact outcome, if you got evidence that there were or are this kind of object tied to something else, you don't want to have an information flow where the people who are able to spot the clues are somehow discouraged from even sharing the information, let alone getting to the bottom of it. I guess as journalists, we take that as second nature. I want to play the 2015 video because it's wild. Take a look.
No, I took an auto card. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow. Look at it fly.
If you divide this into really simple categories, because a lot of these have a similar format, do you see them as door number one, it's something that looks like something but is actually nothing? Door number two, it's something that is not known but exists in our actual human world. For example, super secret military technology that we just don't know about. And then door number three, well, gosh, it's an alien.
I think it could be any of those. And I think that's the one thing, everybody says we don't know what we don't know. And I love that you played the 2015 video, because when I was working on that story, as you can imagine, we're talking about the stigma. I was getting so much grief from my colleagues at the New York Times. And whenever they gave me too much grief, I would just play the video really loudly in the newsroom in the Washington Bureau, and they'd all come running over to my desk. And I was like, oh yeah, who's crazy now? But Ryan Graves, who was the pilot involved in some of those 2015 incidents off the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier, and I interviewed him in 2019, so 2 years ago. It was actually exactly 2 years ago. This is somewhere around Memorial Day in New York, and he never. The interview was fascinating because he was very detailed about what he saw. And he described this as these objects that had no visible means of propulsion. He didn't understand how they could see. He said they were staying in the air for 12 hours at a time. I mean, a fighter jet. And he's in a fighter jet that has to refuel, every hour or so. And they're doing things that the objects he described were doing things that he did not understand where the capability came from. At no point did Lieutenant Graves, did he ever say this is a UFO from another planet? He was very clear that we don't know, that he did not know what this was. But he was also very clear that he thought that this was dangerous because at one point he described an incident that happened in 2015 when a fellow Navy pilot almost hit one of these things. And they don't know whether, at this point, these pilots didn't know whether this was something from China or Russia. Maybe this was a secret American program that nobody knew about. This could be drones. They could do whatever. But the idea that our own fighter pilots might end up crashing into something that we are not, that they're somehow advised not to talk about just got ridiculous, which was the reason why
I have to fit in a break. Yeah, I have to fit in a break, but I love catching up with you on this, and those are all important questions. I hope you'll come back. Helene Cooper, thank you.
I'll be your UFO reporter.
Let's go. We can be a correspondent. I mean, and then if you do break the story that there are UFOs powered by actual aliens, that'll be, I would tell you, that would be a big story.
You think
thank you. We'll see you again. I do. I think so. We'll see you again when we come back. Why John Oliver's roasting the beat.